It's fascinating how very often from one detail in Torah, what would seem like an insignificant nuance, one can actually discover the fundamental theme of the entire subject. The opening of Sefer Dvarim, the first pasuk of the final book of Chumash, reads in source number 1, Eila hadvarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever hayarden. These are the words Moshe speaks to all of the Jewish people in the Trans-Jordan, on the eastern side of the Jordan River, Bamidbar ba'arava mo'el suv bein paron uvein toifel v'lavon v'chatzeirot v'di zahav. Quite a few words to describe a geographical location. In the desert, in the Arava, etc. So Rashi says that we looked for all of these places, we couldn't find them, thank you. But what Moshe was referring to was a certain event that happened either in each of these places or an event that is represented by these names. V'di, for example, refers to the Chet HaEgel, to the creation of the golden calf, which happened because of Daizav, because they had too much gold. There was an excessiveness of gold. What does he say on V'chatzeirot? V'chatzeirot, he says, B'machlekoiso shel Korach. Chatzeirot, Moshe is referring to and rebuking the Jewish people in his words about the fight, the mutiny of Korach. What's the connection between Chatzeirot and Korach? So some say that the story of Korach happened in a place called Chatzeros. Yet it's interesting, when it comes to the Chet HaEgel, the way the Torah refers to it is by a thematic connection. It was made from gold, there was too much gold. When it comes to Korach, the way Moshe intimates it is not discussing what happened, but the location, Chatzeros. Unless the word Chatzeros captures the essence of Korach's revolt against Moshe. That's the word, therefore, that Moshe chooses when he wants to describe the mutiny of Korach. The very word Chatzeros tells the whole story. Chatzeros means courtyards. Chatzeros, courtyards, open places behind homes. How would that capture the story of Korach? Let's learn a Gemara. Source number 2, Zog the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Yedalid, Amid Beis, Shabbos 14b, and the same Gemara is in Eiruv in Chaf Aleph Beis, Eiruv in 21b. Fascinating Gemara. Rishah Shetikin Shloime Eiruv in Netilas Yadayim. When Shloime HaMelech instituted the 2 rabbinic mitzvahs, Eiruvin and Eiruv and Netilas Yadayim, washing of the hands before bread, Yotzes Abaskel V'Yomra, a heavenly voice came out and declared, a pasuk in Mishlei, thank you, a pasuk in Mishlei, Perek Chav Gimel, Proverbs 23, says the pasuk, B'ni, my son, Im Chocham Libecha Yismach Libi Gam Oni. If your heart is wise and mature, it makes my heart happy as well. The father speaks to the son and says, your success brings me so much joy and simcha. If your heart in Chacham Libecha, trust me, my heart rejoices equally, even if your wisdom surpasses mine. Comes the Gemara and says, you know what this pasuk is referring to? A baskel that came out with a Hashem. God speaks about Shloime HaMelech and says, look how smart, look how brilliant, look how much chachma my son has, and it brings tremendous joy to my heart. When? When Shloime instituted the 2 mitzvahs, Eiruvin and Netilas Yadayim. What is the Gemara referring to? There are 3 types of Eiruvs in halacha. There's what's called Eruv Eit Chumin, Eiruv Tafshilin, and Eruve Chatzeros. What we actually call an Eiruv in modern slang is not really the classical term of an Eiruv. What we call an Eiruv is encircling a place, whether it's a city or a neighborhood or a colony or a complex, whatever it is, to really turn it into a private domain or reshus hayachid. So either you put a wall around it, a fence around it, or there's the mechanism of what's called, tzuras hapesach, the form of a door, etc. The classic term of Eiruv is something else. Eruv chatzeirot, and let's see a summation of it very beautifully and thoroughly in the Shulchan Aruch, source 3, Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Shulchan Aruch of the Balatanya, Rabbi Shnei Zalman of Liadi, Or HaChaim, Siman, Shin Samach Vav, Seif Aleph. It's basically based on a Rashi in Shabbos and Eiruvin, but he develops it very clearly. Says the Shulchan Aruch Harav, Chatzer, and this is one of the most practical halachas in contemporary Jewish life, as it always was. Chatzer shahar be'batim psuchim l'soich. You have a courtyard, and many homes open up into this yard. We have maybe an apartment building, and all of our homes open up to the public hallway, or we have a courtyard outside. It is Muncie, it's not Brooklyn. We could speak about outdoors. You have many homes, and they open up to a courtyard where everybody plays, or walks, or hangs out. Mutter min ha-Torah l'taltel b'chol ha-chatzer. Of course, min ha-Torah you can carry in the entire courtyard. Umin ha-batim l'chatzer. And from the homes to the courtyard, it's a complete private domain. It's fenced in. It's a private courtyard. There may be 50 homes that use it. There may be 5 homes that use it. There may be 200 people in the courtyard on a nice Shabbos afternoon. But so what? It's a private domain. It's a reshus hayachid. It's fenced in. It has 4 walls. Perfect. Aval chachamim asur l'taltel l'batim l'chatzer actually are the chachamim, and now we know from the Gemara who was it. It was Shlomo HaMelech. When you say sages, it doesn't always mean chachamim in the times of the Gemara. Over here, chachamim refers to Shlomo HaMelech. The chachamim instituted, because the chachamim represent the members of the Bezdin of the Jewish Supreme Court. Already from the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, you have chachamim. Chachamim asur l'taltel l'batim l'chatzer actually are the chachamim prohibited any one of the residents or guests to carry from the home into the courtyard until they make an Eiruv, which he's going to explain. Why? Why? What's the problem? Because the homes are distinct individual properties. Every person has his or her home. Where the courtyard is a domain that is shared by everyone, by all of the homes. You may have 50 homes, you may have 500 people there, or even 2 homes. The chatzer is similar to a public domain in the sense, not all 500 people are coming into my house, but everybody is using the chatzer, is using the courtyard. Right? And if you have guests, so you have all the guests, if you have residents, it's constant. You might see him in a bottom chatzer. And if you would allow the people to carry from the houses to the courtyard, yitu, they may error and they'll say, especially the children growing up, they see every Shabbos afternoon, you're carrying toys from your private domain into what seems like a public domain. Is there a big difference between a courtyard that has 100 people playing in it or taking it a few steps further outside, outdoors to the street? It seems the same. What's the solution? The Chachamim allowed you to carry if you make an Eiruv. Eiruv literally comes from the word la'arev, to mix, taruvas, a mixture. What do they do? You collect bread from every single one of the homes, each one. Or you can acquire, you can take money and purchase bread as partnership from all the people of the city, join and buy this bread. Again, this is a city that's circled in, so min ha-Torah to reshus hayachid. And you place all of this bread from each home in one of the homes of the courtyard. We view it as though all the residents have a living space in that one home. Why? Matam, why? It's a fascinating observation of Chazal. People's minds is where the food is. Right? This has a lot of practical implications on the Kiddush. People's minds, what do you consider the place where you live, where you have food? The place where you can go and you know you can just eat, and nobody's going to charge you. A restaurant is not considered your home. The place where you sit and you just eat, that's where your das is, that's where your home is. So when every one of the residents has food in one home, and any one of us can come in and eat. If you don't let some people come into your house to eat, then there's no eruv chatzeirot. But we all have a place to eat in your home because my bread is there, and your bread is there, and your bread is there. So then, so it's as though everybody is living in one. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's as though the entire courtyard is exclusive for that home. It's not compared anymore to a public domain. Because it's as though everybody is living in one home, although this home has many extensions and many rooms and many chambers, but they're all guests in one home. It's like if you have a home and you invite 100 people as a guest for a Shabbaton. You don't need to make an eruv chatzeirot. Why? They're all residents of your home. You may put this one up in the basement, and this one up in the attic, and this one up in the second home that you own, but they're all extensions of your home. Essentially, everybody in the courtyard are all residents of one home. It's like your family. You're not allowed to have a family. You have to make an eruv chatzeirot with your family because it's not a rishus harab. And he continues, even to carry from one home into another home, not through the courtyard, is also without an eruv. The Chachamim made a fence of Torah, not even to allow people to take out from one home into another home, which is two private properties. It's not from the house to the Chatzer. Mela, the Chatzer has an ear of a public domain. From my house into your house in an apartment building, what's the problem? But if we take out from my house to your house, even though it's both Rishus HaYachid, this is an extra fence that people shouldn't carry into another Rishus HaYachid, so they shouldn't come to a Rishus HaRab. But if they placed an eruv, they placed bread in one of the homes. It's as though everybody has a residence in that one home as partners. So the whole courtyard has one home. It has 50 homes, 20 homes. All the other homes are seen halachically as rooms, as extensions of this one home. It's like one owner who has many homes. You know, when he's in a good mood, he's in this home, and when he's in a bad mood, he goes to that home. He puts up his guest. Today, people have guest houses, right? So you have a guest house. It's still your home. You pay the taxes. And it's all one domain. This is called eruv chatzeirot. This is the classic eruv. Why is it called eruv chatzeirot? It's a courtyard with many homes, and you mix them all together. You make one cholent. Literally one cholent, everybody can come eat cholent with a little bread in one home. This is the classic din of Eiruv, and often, people often don't realize this detail of Eiruv, which is really the classic Eiruv. I was once invited for a Shabbaton, a big Shabbaton. It's a big complex, big camp area with a lot of different families, and the person who was in charge tells me that they came already a few days before, and they built strings and sticks all around the camp to make it a perfect Rishus HaYachid, and everything was wonderful, and therefore you can carry everywhere. So he says it's a perfect eruv. I said, what about an eruv chatzeirot? So he said, what's that? He didn't realize. He thought an eruv means it's a confined area. Even after you have a confined area, you settle the Rishus HaYachid problem. It's not a Rishus HaRab, or it's not a Carmelis, it's a Rishus HaYachid. But you still have an issue that many homes are sharing one domain. And if they're eating together, there's an interesting story I once heard from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. His father got smicha from Reb Chaim Brisker. His father's name was Reb Levi Yitzchak Schneerson. He became the rabbi of a large city in the Ukraine called Yekaterinoslav, and after the Bolshevik Revolution it was changed to Dnepropetrovsk, because you couldn't have any names that represent the old Russian regime. The old Russian Tsarist regime. Yekaterinoslav was named after Catherine the Great, so everything had to be changed. Of course, Petersburg, which was named after Peter the Great, had to be changed to Leningrad. This was the perfect communist way of dealing with history. It never happened, it never existed. So he was the Rav of that city. And he got smicha. He had smicha from the Rebellion Chaim Meisel of Lodz, I believe. And one of them was Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, Reb Chaim Brisker. Zeichet Tzadik Levracha. Zeichet Tzadikim Levracha. And so the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, because Reb Chaim Brisker knew who my father was, he was a Shneeson. So, etem gematet. Etem gematet. He was a Chassidish Rav. Reb Chaim Brisker was the quintessential descendant of the world of Lita, of the great Torah world of Lithuania. Etem gemutchet. Etem gemutchet. And he was very impressed with him. And he gave him smicha for Rabbanos. See, part of the smicha it wasn't just an exam. Chaim had him sit. People who came to ask shilas, he had him answer the shilas. Real classic shimush. So he said it was Sukkot's time. It was Sukkot's time. I guess this was in the city of Brisk. Yeah, in Brisk. And a Yid came running to Reb Chaim. What's the problem? It's Cholamoyed. It's Shabbos. And they forgot to make an eruv chatzeirot. Nobody's eating in the house. Everybody's eating in the sukkah. To go to the sukkah, you go into the, it's a courtyard. Everyone is sharing the sukkah. So everybody's carrying. They forgot to make an eruv chatzeirot before Shabbos. It's already Shabbos. Shabbos Chol HaMoed or Shabbos Yom Tov. Probably Shabbos Yom Tov. What do we do? So Reb Chaim turns to Reb Levi Yitzchak Shneeson. They called him Reb Levi. And he says, Paskin. Paskin. So he says right away, he says, the sukkah alein is ma'arev. They're all eating in one place. The whole idea is you put the food in one home, so we all have food in your home. And since we all have food in your home, we all share that home, so to speak. Here, since they're all eating in one place, so the sukkah alein is ma'arev. Chaim was very taken by the answer. He was very impressed with the answer. So I once heard from Lubavitcher Rebbe said at the yard side of his father, of Abrengim. I think late then it wasn't printed in Russia, at least in the Ukraine, but I think somebody noted that. I think the Meiri writes it. The Beis Abchir, Rabbeinu Amiri, I think he writes this. I'll call upon him. Who was Mesakin Eruv Chatzeirot? Now we know Shlomo HaMelech. But today I ask you a question. Why did the Baskel come out and say on this? Im b'niyim chacham libecha yismach libi gamani. If you're wise, my heart rejoices as well. So, there's a beautiful interpretation, a famous interpretation of the Rebbe of Kotz. Dafke this. Shlomo HaMelech, by the way, instituted other things. Yeah, a lot of things. But on Eiruv and Netilas Yadayim. Now, no question, eruv chatzeirot was a great institution in Jewish life. Allows the kids to play together on Shabbos, not only in one home, but public places. Obviously, I think the Rashash says that Shlomo HaMelech was basically giving a great service, making life easier for the Jewish people. The Shulchan Aruch says, Shulchan Aruch Erechayim Simin Shin Samach Vav Sif Yud Gimel Mitzvah Lachzer Acher Eruv Chatzeirot. It's a mitzvah to make an eruv chatzeirot. This is already from the Rishonim, from Arami Rottenburg, from Mordechai, the Tur. It's a mitzvah to make an eruv. It's not just, it's a mitzvah, it's a great thing. The reason is, the Paiskim explain, the Shulchan Aruch Harav brings, the Mishnah Brura brings, so people shouldn't come to carry into the chutzner. But it's a mitzvah to do it. But yet, it generated a unique response from heaven. So there's a beautiful, interesting word from the Kotzker Rebbe, and really a perspective on life. It's brought, I saw it in a Sefer Emes Ve'emunah. Let me quote it. He quotes the Gemara, B'shasha Tikkun Shleim Even Until Zedayim, Yotzes HaBaskal V'omrim, B'nim Chacham, Libcha, Libecha, Yismach Libi Gamani. U'ma'u HaChachma Bazeh. Was ist die größte Chachma? Halei Shlomo HaMelech Olav HaShalom Tikkun Gam Shari Inyanim. Shlomo instituted also other things. Why is this called Chachma? Achatoyre Ramza. Eiruvin and Netilas Yadayim. It's two things. Eiruvin and Netilas Yadayim. Zeh Chachma Hagdoila. This is a great Chachma. Not Eiruvin and Netilas Yadayim. Either or both. Eiruvin and Netilas Yadayim. Together. Why? Liyos mu'urav bedavar, to be mixed into something, v'liyos naki, and to remain pure. Now you have to figure this out. There are two philosophies in life. One philosophy in life is netilas yadayim. I keep my hands clean. I keep my soul clean. I keep my mouth clean. You know how? You don't hang around people. You stay away. When you live in isolation, you live in a cocoon, you're not involved in communal affairs, you could remain ehrlich, honest, straight. Toiv la shamayim, toiv la briyas. You don't shmuaz, you don't get into conversations. Netilas yadayim, before you touch anything, you make sure you wash your hands again and again and again, because you know there's germs everywhere, there's bacteria everywhere. Keep yourself clean. There's another philosophy in life. It's called Eruv. We call it the social people, the Eruv. You mix. The Gemara says in Ksuvas, Yudzayin lo'olam tei daitoi murev daitoi shadam murevesim habriyas. You're a murev. You mixed in. You're involved in people's lives. You're involved in community affairs. You connect. You're integrated. Eruv. You have a chatzer. You make sure that everyone is part of that chatzer and everyone is in your house. And the two are not simple. For them to coexist is not simple. The great Chachma of Shlomo HaMelech is to be able to be Me'urev, to be able to have Eiruvin, and still to bleiben rein, to be able to remain clean in life. Beautiful, beautiful insight. That's a great Chachma. To be able to be integrated, connected, close, intimate, and yet to be able to remain a pure soul. To be able to remain an ehrlich human being, to really be able to remain loyal to your soul, to your conscience, to your God, to truth. And that coexistence takes chachma. This is the Kotzker Rebbe's Avart. Comes Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, what was the sin of Korach? One word. Chatzeros. Chatzeros. What did Shlomo HaMelech do? He made Eiruv Chatzeros. And this is what generated the Baskel. Let's explore what's possibly a deeper interpretation in all of this. So, let's get to Korach. Let's get to Korach. When you read Korach's words, Korach stages a rebellion against Moshe, and his words are really, in many ways, very beautiful. The next source, Korach Perek Tzayin Pasuk Gimel. Korach comes to Moshe and Aron, and what does he say? Rav lachem, enough. Kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim u'besoichem Hashem u'madua tisnasu al kahal Hashem. All of Klal Yisrael is holy. The Rebbeinu Shalom dwells among every single Jew. B'toichem Hashem. Why do you segregate yourself? Why are you arrogant? Why do you exalt yourself on the congregation of God? This is the way Korach stages his chief complaint against Moshe. And remember, this wasn't just, he wasn't a lone wolf. Torah says he gathered 250 prominent, distinguished leaders who all joined the revolt, besides, of course, Dasan and Aviram, who always were in front. There's a good fight. You know, you always know when there's a machlokes, there'll be two people who will be part of it, no matter what. It's not even, right? They say one man tells his friend, he says, let's make achdus. He says, I'm kegen vemen. You know, let's unify. But the question is against whom? You always have to have it against whom you're going to unify. Achdus, sure, but somebody has to be a target. What is Korach saying? What is Korach saying? Ostensibly, his words ring with I would say, a romantic and a poetic truth. Why is there a need for distinctions, for demarcations, for categories? Madua tisnasu al kahal Hashem. Why can't the world be one? Why can't we all be one? Why can't there be what we call real achdus, real cohesiveness, real unity? There's no Moshe, there's no Aaron, there's no unique positions, there's no hierarchy. Everyone is part of Hashem, everyone is holy. Gewaldik. Imagine. No borders, no distinctions. Distinctions create competitiveness, jealousy, politics. We all know that. This is Korach's time. And yet the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, Kol ha-machzik b'machloikis. Somebody who holds on to any machloikis, he's over on a lav. Which lav? V'lo yeh ke'koirach v'chadosa. 1 second. If I make a machloikis about an air condition, what does that do with Korach? Any machloikis, I'm replicating Korach. This means Korach didn't just argue. Korach was the epitome of machloikis. Any machloikis, we could be fighting over who gets mafta next Shabbos. Right? Or we could be fighting over a building. Or whatever we're fighting about, a Yerusha. It's all Korach. What does it with Korach? Every machloikis has to do with Korach. This means Korach didn't just fight about something. Korach represents the essence of machloikis. I ask you a question. Does this make sense? Korach is screaming achdus, achdus, achdus. Quite literally, pshutei shel mikra. Everybody is holy. Every Yid is holy. Stop the segregation. What do you have to sit in Mizrach? What do you have to sit on stage? What's this thing? I don't like it. As Rashi says, God spoke to everybody at Har Sinai. Everybody heard Hashem. Everyone is a Navi. Everybody heard Anoich Hashem Elokech. Now I can understand, you could tell me Korach was wrong. But why does he embody machloikis? Any machloikis, Korach. Even today you want to speak about a Baal machloikis, you say he's a Korach. He fought about something. This means that Korach's complaint, although at the surface seemed as a call for unity, essentially was, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is almost irrelevant. It was a call for machloikis. It was a call for fragmentation. And why? What's the reason for that? The reason for that is because Korach made 2 mistakes. And the 2 mistakes are still made today, thousands of years later. One is, he misunderstood what unity is. And number 2, he misunderstood what leadership is. And because of that, he called for no leadership, and he called for absolute unity as a result. Madu etisnasu al kal Hashem. And what Torah says, when you don't understand what unity is, and you don't understand what leadership is, essentially this is the genesis of machloikis. Machloikis means you don't understand what unity is and how unity works, and therefore the only way to deal with your life is through divisiveness, through fragmentation, through disputation. Because what does real unity mean? Does unity mean that people are not different? Does unity mean that there's no individuality in society? When it says in Pirkei Avos, Ba'asara ma'amoris nivra ha'olam, Hashem created the world through 10 utterances, not b'maimer echad, not through 1 utterance. Essentially what that means is that every single creature, not just in the human race, in the animal kingdom, in the botanic world, in the inanimate world, every single creature is unique, is distinctive, is individual, is individuated. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Lamed Zayin, the Mishnah Kashem Shein Partzufei and Shabbos Kachin Deyasei and Shabbos. No 2 faces have ever looked alike, and no 2 minds have ever functioned alike. And as the Kotzker Rebbe also once said, what's the comparison? He says nobody gets upset when somebody else doesn't look like them. I never heard a guy come over to shul and say, when are you going to look like me already? Why does your nose have to be so different than mine? We're happy that nobody looks like you're you. So he says, so why do you get so upset that somebody doesn't think like you? He doesn't look like you. She doesn't look like you. So why do they have to think like you? That I can't accept. You have to agree with me. But the yisoid of the Bria, the fundamental element of creation is, even in families, even in close-knit societies and communities, there's no 2 people, no 2 things, no creatures alike. And the way to fulfill your purpose in creation is not by replicating somebody else, and by copying somebody else, and by losing your individual traits, but it's rather by you fulfilling the purpose for which you were sent down to the world, which is different than anybody else. Although there are, of course, commonalities and common denominators between all of society, what we call the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the basic code of morality. And among the Jewish people, there are, of course, the commonalities of Matan Torah, Ma'amad Har Sinai, Taryag Mitzvahs, etc., the constitution of Judaism. But within that world, every person has their life story, their genetic makeup, their unique environment, their nature and their nurture, their blessings and their challenges, their gifts and resources and virtues and vices, their unique chemical makeup and composition, their physiological makeup, their spiritual makeup, their psychological makeup, their emotional makeup. And no two people are the same. And on one hand, and it's difficult for a person to be able to say it in simple terms, to be able to become comfortable in your own skin, to be able to become comfortable knowing who you are and who you're not. Who you are and who you're not. Unity cannot be achieved by making believe there's no differences. Because that unity is superficial. Because when the differences emerge, there goes the unity. It's like a chassan and a kala, a groom and a bride get engaged. I was once, chassan and kala came to see me, so I asked them why they got engaged. So the chassan tells me, he says, because we're mamish identical. We're mamish identical. There's not, it's like the same person. Gewaldig, right? Gewaldig. I smiled. In my heart I said, come back in a few years, let me see how identical you are. I don't mean to be cynical. There is a beautiful romantic feeling that you and I are mamish one and there's no differences. But for real achdus to be maintained in long term, you have to appreciate unity despite diversity. And unity within diversity. As much as we're one, there's also respect for space. We spoke a few weeks ago, you remember about Talmidei Rebbe Akiva, Lo'inagu kavod zeh b'zeh. There's love and there's respect. Ahava is b'gematria echad, 13. We're one. There's also respect. You are you, I am I. This is not narcissism or selfishness. You can't expect the lion to live like the sheep. And you can't expect the bird to run like the deer. And you can't expect Pharaoh's horses winning races to become elephants. And you can't expect one child in your family to be another child in your family. And you can't expect men and women to be identical. Or cultures to be identical. Or every person to be like somebody else. Chayav Adam Loimar, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Bishvili nivra ha'olam. Is that selfish? It's not selfish. It means there's something at stake in the drama of history that only you can contribute to. Because of your story, your unique story. They tell the anecdote that Emperor Joseph II from Austria came to a symphony by Mozart. The problem was that the emperor was somewhat tone deaf, so what do you do by a symphony? It's like what Jews do during the Rav's drasha. It's called shlof. So he falls asleep. Nobody here, of course, but in theory, or at least in other places. So he finishes the symphony, and Emperor Joseph II thanks Mozart. He says, "You did a wonderful job, but too many notes. Too many notes." Man, I often hear it. "Good to shira, but too long." Very good, but too long, too many notes. So he says, "Your Majesty," Mozart says, "Your Majesty, which one do you suppose I cut?" For the true composer, there is not a note that's too many. Every note is indispensable. Which one do you want I should cut? You come to a father, a mother that have 12 children, and you say, "Give up one." Really, which one? Which one is which one is dispensable? For the Rebbeinu Shalom, every person, every soul, every creature, it's indispensable in its unique mission, contribution, and design. Basaram amaris nivroilam, not b'maimer echad. Maimer echad would mean there's oneness, but there's asar, and the asaram amaris themselves. Each one has letters, and each one has Shara Yichud V'Emunah. He discusses chilufim, tzirufim, tmuris, from which all creatures ultimately come. In other words, there's a unique dvar Hashem, there's a unique divine energy for every single nivra in the world, and of course for every single person in the world. So what is unity? Unity is recognizing that despite our diversity, there is something you contribute and there's something I contribute. Each of us is a giver and taker. Each of us is a mashpia and a mekabel. I receive from you and you receive from me. And to the contrary, if I deny your individuality, I'm ultimately depriving myself from the gift that you can give me. If I want you to be me, ultimately I become more impoverished. It's like in a beautiful relationship, the fact that you're different, that's a blessing, it's not a curse. It allows each one to expand their horizons and gain the depth and the wisdom and the perception from the other person. There's a t-shirt I once saw, I'm very easy to get along with once you learn to worship me. You know, that's one model. If you worship me, then we get along. But the greatness in life is unity within diversity. But the truth is that there's something even deeper about Achdus. And here we come to the true idea of leadership in Yiddishkeit. What is leadership? What is real leadership in Yiddishkeit? Korach, I can't blame him. Korach was living 3,000 years ago and change, 3,300 years ago. He was accustomed to what leadership looked like in society. And he didn't understand that Moshe introduces a new type of leadership. And it's in one word in Parshas Baloischa, right before Korach. Va'ish Moshe, Onav miyoid mikol adam asher al pnei adam. The most powerful person is the most humble person, a paradox. Korach doesn't understand that. Until today, we often don't understand the nature of leadership. And it's not always our fault. Not all leaders can really impart that lesson of leadership to us. But what does this really mean? What is the leader? The true level of unity comes from understanding this. All of the universe comes from one source. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Koyach HaPoyel B'nifel means the stamp of the Creator is in the creation. The Creator is one, so the creation is also one. But the oneness of creation is not displayed through everybody being the same. The oneness of creation is displayed by everybody being different, and together we create one large picture, like a jigsaw puzzle. Imagine one piece of the jigsaw puzzle turns to the other piece and says, why do I keep bumping into you? Why can't you just look like me? So the person takes the puzzle, and in order to make shalom and achdus, he cuts all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle until they all look beautiful. Wow, not beautiful alike. There's only one problem. What's the picture? There's no picture being created. By this piece being this shape, and this piece being this shape, and they come together, each one contributing their unique role to the puzzle, the larger picture is created. Imagine in a body, a human organism, right? The heart really gets upset with the nose and says, why can't you be like me? Genug schmecken, start pumping blood and working like a mensch. Or the heart gets upset on the brain. Genug getrach, maybe you get to work. Stop thinking. The person says, Taka, why does my body have to be, why can't everything just be one? So of course you make a surgery and every limb and organ looks exactly like the other limb and organ, and the end of the story is Gadal v'Yiz Kadash. Shaited is one organism. It's one story, it's called life. But for life to happen, the brain has to be the brain, and the eyes have to be the eyes, and the liver has to be the liver, and the teeth have to be the teeth, and the legs have to be legs, and the arms have to be arms, etc., etc., etc. And by each one being unique and individual, and yet recognizing that the other one has their unique contribution, and we're really one. We're really one. We come from Hashem Echad. We recreate a single, unified, holistic picture of oneness, representing Hashem Echad in the diversity of creation. So are we one? Of course we're one. How are we one? We're one the more we can recognize our source, and the more we can recognize the relationship of our source to our lives, to our concrete lives, the more oneness we create within ourselves, within our psyches, within our families, within our communities, within our larger communities, within the Jewish world, and ultimately within the entire world, as we describe in Aleinu. Hashem Echad, Shmo Echad, as Epei Chalamim, the famous pasuk, Likrei Kulam B'Shem Hashem, La'avdoi Shechem Echad. Or as Rashi puts it, fascinating Rashi, even though we say it many, many times a day, often people don't realize, what's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? Every time you say Shema Yisrael, you're really talking about Mashiach. Rashi says, Shema Yisrael, hear Israel. Hashem Elokeinu, the God that is our God. One day, it's going to be Hashem Echad. It's not going to be our God. It's going to be Hashem Echad. The consciousness of the world will recognize the Echad, the Achdus. Everything is really one, because the more you could see the Koyach HaPoyel, the stamp of the Creator in creation, the imprint of godliness in creation, the more unity. The more you go away from the source, the less unity. What then is the function of the leader? Why is there a leader? Why is there a leader? The function of the leader, this is what Korach misunderstands. And I think the best way to describe it is through an illustration. And the first time I came across this, it really made it very real for me. The most famous building in the ancient world was what? It's still a great tourist attraction. The Egyptian pyramids. These were more than just buildings. They were statements in stone of a hierarchical social order. Take a look at the pyramids. What do they look like? They're wide at the base and they're narrow at the top. Wide, narrower, until you have that peak of the pyramid on the top. What does this represent? On the top, who do you have? You have the king. You have the pharaoh. That's the place where heaven and earth, they believe, met, because Pharaoh was like, a demigod, at least in his eyes. And beneath him, you have a series of elites. And beneath them, you have the laboring masses. And the masses carry on their shoulders, they serve the elites, who serve the higher elites, who all serve the higher elites, until you reach the peak, which is Pare. This was the way they understood the very nature of the universe. The universe is organized based on some principles. The sun ruled the heavens. The lion ruled the animal kingdom. He was the king of the jungle. And the king ruled the nation. This is how nature dictates it. This is how it must be. Yiddishkeit was a protest against this perspective. Take a look at the great symbol of biblical Israel, the menorah. What does the menorah look like? The menorah is exactly the opposite. The menorah is the inverted pyramid. It's broad on the top, it's narrow on the bottom. Who is the leader? The leader is on the bottom, carrying the masses. Where do we see this? A story in Gemara. Fascinating story. Take a look in Hoyriyus Daf Yud Amud Aleph. It's a few sources down. Talk to the Gemara. Ki hadi Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua have a azli b'sfinos. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua were traveling on a boat. Bahadi did Rabbi Gamliel have a pitta. Rabbi Gamliel had bread. Bahadi did Rabbi Yeshua have a pilta v'sulta. Rabbi Yeshua had bread and flour. Shalom pitti did Rabbi Gamliel. The bread of Rabbi Gamliel was finished. Samach hasulta did Rabbi Yeshua. Now he had to rely on the flour of Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua had vision. He knew this might be a long journey. The bread will either finish, and if you take more bread, what's going to happen? It's going to get moldy. So he brought flour, and that way he can always have what to eat. Amalei, Rabbi Gamliel tells Rabbi Yeshua, how did you know that we are going to be delayed on this journey so long that you brought flour? Because you know if you brought extra bread, it'll become moldy. Amalei, Rabbi Yeshua says, there's a star that comes up once in 70 years and it confuses all the captains. I said, Shema Yala V'yite. My astronomical cheshboid is the star may come up now and it'll confuse our captain. We're going to get lost. So we speak in English about Halley's Comet, but it's not Halley. Rabbi Yeshua, almost 2,000 years ago, spoke about the comet that comes up once in 70 years. Fascinating. And because the captains were guided by a star that was fixed, and they knew this is the north, this is the south, this is the east, but this star is a flying star, it could be in the north, it could be in the south. He looks at the star, he thinks, oh, this is the north. He's confused. And he goes in the wrong direction until he realizes that it's too late. Rabbi Yeshua says, this may happen, we're going to get lost in the sea. I brought extra flour. Not bad. So now it's a classic Jewish question. Amar lei, Rabbi Gamliel says, you're such a genius, and you have to schlep on boats in order to make a little parnasa. A man like you, he can't get him a respectable position somewhere. Amar lei, Rabbi Yeshua says, you're wondering about me. Why don't you wonder about two students that you have on dry land? Rabbi Lezer Chisme, Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada. Sheyoidin l'shayir kamet tippis yesh bayam ve'elem pas lecha v'loy beged lilbush. They can estimate how many drops in the sea. That's the nature of their perceptive levels, of their levels of perception. They don't have bread to eat and clothes to wear. Mela, I know about the comet. What about Rabbi Lezer Chisme, Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada? Nosan daiter lo yeshivam b'rosh. Listen, I didn't know. We have a Sanhedrin. He decides he'll make them leaders. Shalom, when he comes up from the sea, Shalach lahem, he sends them a message. I want to see you. V'loy bo, they don't come. They know what he wants. They don't need it. They don't want it. They don't crave it. They don't want to be leaders. Chazar v'shalach, he sends them again. Bo, they have to come. Amar lahem, he looks at them. He says, "Let me tell you something." And here are the key words. Listen to the words of Rabbi Gamliel, who was himself the leader of the generation, the dynasty of David HaMelech, the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. Amar lahem, he tells them, "Kimidumin atem sheshrora ani noisem lachem, avdus ani noisem lachem." You think I'm conferring rulership on you? I'm turning you into servants. You think to be a Manik Yisrael, to be a rabbis, to be a shoyer? Dasan and Aviram uses this word, right? Kisistore roleinu gamistore. Avdus ani noisem lachem. I'm giving you avdus. And he brings a proof. From where? Shenemar. Vayidabru elov leimer. Im tayoim tiye eved lo mazeh. Let me give you context. Shloima HaMelech, and remember the name. Shloima HaMelech passes away. Who is his son? Rechavam. The nation is split. Should we accept him as a king? They come to him and they say, listen, your father imposed harsh taxes on us. Easy the burden. Rechavam consults two sets of advisors. The old advisors who were still by his father, and his chaverim that he used to play poker with. Or whatever, the young chavre, you know. He went to the Schwitz with them, let's put it that way. He ate pizza with them, barbecued with them. So, you know, his young chavre from yeshiva. The old chavre told him these words. Listen to their words. And Rabbi Gamliel quotes these words when he hires two people as leaders of the Jewish people. And we have here the pasuk Malachim Aleph Perikid based pasuk Zion. Unbelievable pasuk. Vayidabrei lov leimer. They told Rechavam these words. Im hayoim tiye eved la'amazeh va'avadetem. If today you will become a servant of these people, and you'll speak to them in that way, then they'll accept you as their king, they'll become your servants. Unfortunately, Rechavam does not heed their advice. He heeds the advice of his young colleagues. He tells the people of Israel, I will subjugate you even more than my father. And they stage a revolt which splits the Jewish kingdom between Malchus Yehuda and Malchus Yisrael. Only two tribes remain loyal to Rechavam, Yehuda and Binyamin, and the rest appoint a new king, the famous or infamous Yeruvam ben Nevat, who establishes the kingdom in the north, and the split continues for hundreds of years until the Assyrian king exiles the Aseres Hashvatim, and 150 years later the Babylonian emperor destroys the first Beis Hamikdash. It's this split that really changed the dynamics in the first Jewish Commonwealth, which begins with Shaul, David, and Shlomo HaMelech, as a result of this attitude. Says Rabbi Gamliel, listen to these words. Im hayoim tiye eved la'omazeh. Some understand this, it's a cynical comment. Make believe you're a slave today, and tomorrow you'll become the king. It's like when you're running for elections. What do you do when you're running for elections? You take off your tie, you hang out in pubs and farms and in gas stations, you converse with Joe the plumber, read my lips, no taxes, etc. The gist outs. Once they elect you, now you become what you want to become. That's how some people understand. But Rabbi Gamliel doesn't understand it that way. This is a very serious piece of advice. You want to be a melech? You know what a melech is? You're not on the top of the pyramid. You're the menorah. You're the menorah. You're an eved la'amazeh. If I can quote Martin Luther King once said, everybody in the world can be great because everybody can serve. In fact, in the Torah, there's only one explicit commandment on one person to be humble, and that's the king, the melech. Lo yoram levavei. There's a Gemara in Brachas Lamedal and HaMelech Kiven Shekara Shuvin Ezoikif. Every Jew, you daven Shemona Esrei, you kneel, Baruch, Atah, and then you lift up your head by Hashem and you stand erect. There's an exception. A Jewish king, Kiven Shekara, the moment he kneels by Shemona Esrei, he's not allowed to pick up his head till the end of Shemona Esrei. Why? Imagine the whole shul, everyone is standing, and this poor melech is down. If you want, you give him a patch, you give him some malchus if you're upset at him. It's fascinating. Precisely because he's a melech. Korach understood Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership as the pyramid. I'm the leader. You serve me. Your power belongs to me. But Judaism was a revolt against that. Korach is screaming, Madua tisnasu al kahal Hashem. The Torah is screaming, Vayish Moshe onav mi'oid. Kimeduma atem sheshror ani noisem lachem. Avdus ani noisem lachem. How does the leader do this? What is this in the leader? What then is the function of the leader? Don't have a leader and don't give me an eved. Let's be all free. We don't need avodim as leaders. For this, I want to learn with you a shtick called Tzidkas HaTzadik from the Tzaddik HaKohen of Lublin. Great Hasidic master of Tzaddik HaKohen of Lublin. Passed away, I think, 1900 in the city of Lublin in Poland. Has a sefer Tzidkas HaTzadik, Ois Kuf Nun Vav. Dr. Tzaddik. Now listen, this quote is accurate. Listen to these words. Should probably be mandatory reading for every single yeshiva bacher and every single young Jewish girl. Kishem shetzorich ha'adam lahamin b'Hashem yizbarich. Just as a person ought to believe in God, kach tzorich acher kach lahamin ba'atzmoi. This is not a pop psychologist giving here a lecture on self-esteem. Feel good. Go to Starbucks, drink a latte, go get a massage, go biking, do some yoga and Pilates and meditation, and believe in yourself. Reb Tzaddik HaKohen says, Kishem, just as the foundation of Judaism is to believe in God, afterwards, tzarich lahamin ba'atzmo, you have to believe in yourself. What does this mean? You have to believe in yourself. He says, acher kach. Why acher kach? Two reasons. If you believe in yourself before you believe in God, you may be believing in the wrong self. Number two, may be equally important. If you really believe in God, you'll believe in yourself. You'll see. Ritzoynei loymar, sheyesh la Hashem yizbarach eisik imoy. It's a pass for the Rebbeinu Shalom to do business with you. He's involved. He cares. If I could say it in English, he's crazy about you. He needs you. He wants you. V'she'enei koyel bottle. You're not just an idle worker. Shabin Laila, he's quoting from Yoina. One night you're here, bin Laila Ava. You're just a transient creature. 70, 80, 90, 120 years. What's that in the framework of history? Right? Those who believe in the story of evolution, hundreds of millions of years, billions of years. What are you? A little random mutation. You're a mistake. You're not even a statistical error. A little blimp in an infinite cosmos. You were once bacteria. Bin laila, bin laila, person dies, he's like an animal, a beast, he's gone, over, perished, done, next. And the person ought to believe his or her soul is crafted, it's molded, it comes and it's connected to the source of all life, to eternity, to Hashem. But it's not enough. And the Rabbi Shalom has pleasure. And it's mishtashea. How do I say mishtashea? It's hard to translate. Mishtashea. In Hebrew, he says shashuyim are like toys. He toys. But here he means more than toys. He has tremendous ecstasy, tremendous delight, tremendous tainug when the Jew fulfills his mission, his will. But now he goes to the next point. V'zeh pirush, this is the pshat in the pasuk in B'shalach, we say it every day. V'yaminu b'Hashem u'b'Moshe avdoi. How does everyone teach this pasuk? They saw the sea split, they believed in Hashem, and who else did they believe in? Moshe, his servant. Says the tzidkas hatzadik. Pirush Moshe ritzoyne loymar klal shishim riboy nefashis Yisrael b'doirahu ha'aminu sh'Hashem yizbarech chafetz b'hem. Who is Moshe? Moshe is the people. Moshe is the klal. He's the unifying picture of the jigsaw puzzle of all the Shishim Riboy souls together. That's what Moshe is. He embodies the collective, unified picture that represents the whole klal in every detail. Vayaminu b'Hashem, they believed in Hashem, but Moshe avdoi, they believed in themselves. Who is themselves? Moshe avdoi, that's Moshe. Umemela, gamken b'Moshe. If they really believe in themselves, they believe in Moshe. Why? Ashehu mamish heim. He is mamish them. The Gemara says, as long as the Jews were rejected by Hashem, the Dibur, Hashem did not speak exclusively with Moshe. I explained elsewhere, any sin that the Jewish people ever committed, you'll see that Moshe did the same. Why? Because who is Moshe? Moshe essentially is the embodiment, the nekuda of the Jewish people. K'may be'egel. Let's take the egel. Hayachet Moshe b'shviras haluchas. They make the egel. What does Moshe do? He takes the luchas, he breaks it. Ube'emes udavar tamua v'zor ma'oid. Afilu likroya sefer Torah b'chamasa. Ul'hashlicha la'aretz miksavi at sofer. Kol sheken haluchas mechtav Hashem. Whoever heard? Some of us get into angry moods. Anybody here has a bad temper? Okay, you don't have to all raise your hands at once. But if anybody has a bad... Your mama's in an angry mood. The shreist yam shugana. Right? But I ask you, you're going to go to the Aron Kodesh and take out a Sefer Torah and start ripping it? Even when you're angry. Even when you're angry. Maybe you'll break your computer. I don't even think that. Maybe you'll throw your iPhone onto the ground. Probably not. It costs too much. But even if, you're really a wreck, you're uncontrollable, there's limits. You're not going to take a Sefer Torah and tear it. A regular Jew I'm talking about. The luchas, Moshe, people think Moshe got angry. He's like, oh my God, this is crazy. What are you breaking the luchas for? You don't want to give it to them. Hide it. Put it in your locker. Put it somewhere in Har Sinai. Give it back to Hashem. Was brechst du? Was brechst du? So the Tzidkas HaTzadik is saying something here. Probably only he could say it, but I have to say, I saw this in one more place. The Helike Kamarner has a pirush on Megillas Esther. It's called Michtam Ofer. Anybody knows? The Kamarner has a pirush on Megillas Esther. On the pasuk by Yaver Mordechai, he says the same thing. The Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos, Kuf Daled maybe, Hamashaber Kelim B'Chamosai Keilu Oivid Avodah Zorah. Somebody who breaks Kalim in his wrath is Keilu Oivid Avodah Zorah. So the Tzidkas HaTzadik is saying something very, very dearing. Moshe is the Jewish people are Moshe. When Moshe sees what the Jewish people have done, the question is, how can he elevate them? This is what the Kamarner writes. There's the famous Yisod of the Baal Shem Tov. shliach tzibur, kol mi she'enoi mechuyev bedavar enei moitzi yisrael yedei chevasa. Taich the Baal Shem Tov, somebody who's not guilty in something cannot take out the rabbin from their guilt. If I'm not ready to come down into your situation and be there with you, I can't schlep you out. You have a kid at risk. You have a youngster who has challenges. If you're not ready to go out of your mount, go down from your mountain and go into his or her matziv and understand them and relate to them and embrace them, you will not be able to get them out of the mud. You have to get dirty. You can't remain a detached, objective, professional spectator. Moshe is the embodiment of that. Says the Kamana, how can he lift up Klal Yisrael? He was on the mountain. They were even away the Zorah. What did he do? He breaks the luchas. Kevayochel. He experiences something of their downfall. He goes down with them. Now he can lift them up. Says the Tzidkas HaTzadik, every sin of the Jewish people in the Midbar, Moshe suddenly is going to have part in it. Even though he's the tzaddik, he's mifcha min enushi. And he continues. He says, V'hu mamish chet egel, breaking the luchas. You're taking the Rebbeinu Shel Olam's luchas, you're smashing it. Not because he was angry, because he was in love, because he loved them. But now he continues. When the Rebbeinu Shel Olam told Moshe a few words, Shabbos Daf Pei Zayin, the last Rashi in the whole Chumash, thank you for breaking. He knew if he's thanking me for breaking the luchas, it means the Jewish people are also in a state of Yasher Kechach. Because Shviras HaLuchas was a mirror of Chet HaEgel. And perhaps this brought them to a much deeper place, because now they could connect to God even in broken places. And now, whatever situation will happen throughout history, even the most broken situation, they'll be able to find the light of Hashem there. Bekivras hatayva, the Jews go crazy with indulgence for meat. Omar, he says, Hatzoynu boko yishachet. Same thing. Where are you going to find meat? Suddenly he's doing what they're doing. V'chein b'mei meriva. They're screaming about water. And Moshe again commits what we would call a sin. Ubemeraglim hayechete yashlichus k'meshakasav shlach lo l'daitcha. The Meraglim revolt against Moshe and revolt against him. What does Moshe do? Hashem says, who asked you to send the Meraglim? He goes and he sends the Meraglim. He's responsible. This is not the place to go through every sin in the Midbar. We say, right, trust me, Moshe always takes a part. He now goes back. You have to believe that the Rebbeinu Shel Olam craves and yearns and has tremendous nachas ruach from your goodness, from your holiness, from your neshama, from your guf, from all the toiv that's in you. Now, this Tzidkas HaTzadik really is a Rashi, although in very different words. Rashi, Parshas Chukas, next week's Parsha, Vayishlach Yisrael Malachim, U'b'makam acher Torah Ashlichas b'Moshe. Elsewhere it says Moshe sent the messengers to Sichim. The psukim need each other. One opens, one closes. Listen to Rashi's words. Moshe hu Yisrael, v'Yisrael he Moshe. Moshe is Israel, Yisrael are Moshe. The Nasi of the dirt is like the dirt because the Nasi is HaKoil. What does it mean, Nasi hu HaKoil? Korach understands this. Nobody exists besides the Nasi. He manipulates. Everyone is his object. What he missed the point was, we have the menorah, not the pyramids. Why? The Nasi Hador, the Rebbe of a generation, what is his contribution to the Jewish people? His contribution to the Jewish people is, he's always in tune with the larger picture. He identifies, he himself transcends his own personal agenda and ego and is completely identified with the larger mission, the larger picture, which really unites all the Jewish people, because everyone is one piece in the jigsaw puzzle. Nobody can create their own picture. Each one makes a part of the picture. Together we recreate the whole picture. So in him, Klal Yisrael sees the nekuda of Achdus. Not because of what he has, because of what he doesn't have. Not because he has a bigger ego. Because Anav Ma'oid, he completely transcends personal interests. And what's his mission statement? What's his agenda? I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you play your notes. I'm here to help you play your instruments. And each one to play their own instruments to fulfill that larger picture. That is his service. So is it Madua Tisnasu al Kahal Hashem? Through him you will feel more self-actualized, not subjugated. But for this you need an Anav Ma'oid. Because if not, it really defeats the entire purpose. So was Korach right, or Korach was wrong? Ostensibly, he's great, beautiful. Really, he creates machlokes. You know what? People are not one. People are different. And how do we create a situation that our differences don't create fragmentation, as they often do in marriages, in families, in communities, in the world? Take a look at the news every day. How do we do that? Say we're not different? We are different. We're all different as individuals, as nations, as communities, as people. We're all different. You have Jews and non-Jews. You have nations. You have cultures. You have different sociological dynamics. You have different creatures. You have different people. You have men. You have women. Different talents, different levels. Everybody's different. For this, you need a person who himself or herself rises above the individual ego. Hanasi hu hakoil. This person dedicates his whole life to the hakoil, to be able to articulate to everybody the hakoil, that we're really one. And each of us plays our unique notes in the symphony of the Rebbeinu Shalom. So without a captain, a team can have brilliant players, but it won't be a team. Without generals, an army would be a mob. Without a government, a nation would lapse into anarchy. What does the pasuk say in Shoftim? B'yamim ha'hem ein melech b'Yisrael, ish kol hayoshev be'einav yasa. There's a social order in which each person has equal dignity in the eyes of heaven. The leader doesn't stand above the people. He serves the people because he serves God. He serves Hashem. That's the response to Korach. I once read a very interesting story. There was a man named Herb Brooks. Rings a bell by anybody? Herb Brooks was the legendary coach. You remember him? Of the most famous U.S. ice hockey team in Olympic history. In 1980, his amateur group of skates somehow managed to do the impossible and achieve victory over the undefeatable Soviet Union team, the Russian team back in 1980 before communism fell. The Soviets have won the gold medal in the past 7 Winter Olympic Games. They were considered to be the dominant team. Nobody would be able to prevail over them. And Herb Brooks did the impossible. Until today, they call it the miracle on ice. So I once was curious how he managed to do this. Because he was given, it was a difficult team. They were immature. They were not integrated. He got young, inexperienced Americans. He got them over the line and he got them to win. The team was scattered. They didn't get along with each other. When a team doesn't get along with each other, I want you to fail, you want me to fail. They're competing against each other. It's impossible. So he worked them hard to the point that he worked them again and again, to the point they felt they couldn't skate any longer. He had them practice again and again and again, night after night, till their legs couldn't bear it any longer, and then he had them practice again. And one of them turned to him and said, "How long will you torture us for?" And this was the moment where they would either revolt and say, have a good day with somebody else, or they would become a team. And Brooks responded and he said these words. He said, until each player understands that the name on the front of the sweater is more important than the name on the back of the sweater. They got it. And he created as a result the miracle of ice. We all have the name on the back of the sweater. I have my name, you have your name. And it has to be that way. My name is not your name is not my name. But as long as the name on the front of the sweater is not more important than the name on the back of the sweater, as long as we don't recognize the team, as long as we don't recognize the big picture, then there's no way diversity can create unity. But if we recognize the name on the back of the sweater, and we also recognize that each name is indispensable to the name on the front of the sweater, so then it's like a conductor of an orchestra. The conductor, what does a conductor do? The conductor doesn't tell the violinist, shh, we want to hear the drummer. And he doesn't tell the celloist, shh, we want to hear the guitar. And he doesn't tell the pianist, why do you have to be different? That's what the conductor does. The conductor cherishes the drummer and the violin and the cello and the harp and appreciates every instrument's individual contribution, like he appreciates every note's contribution to the symphony. And yet, because he's a conductor, he brings it all together to create that heavenly resonance of the symphony. That's what a Jewish leader is. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is. This is what Korach misunderstands. Madua tisnasu? Avdus ani noisim lachem. I'm here to be able to help everybody see the name on the front of the sweater. If this is the case, let's now go back to Shlomo HaMelech's Eiruv Chatzaros that we make ad Hayoim Hazeh. Where do we see this concept in halacha? This concept in halacha, fascinatingly, we see in the halacha of Eiruv. And let's see a line from Kabbalah, Ma'orei of Reb Meir Papirash. It's an encyclopedia of Kabbalah according to the Aleph base. He says under Eiruv is a combination of ayin beis in the beginning and the end, and yud reish vav in the middle. Zok Reb Meir, what is the numerology, the gematria of reish yud vav of 216? Anybody knows? Gvura. What's the numerical value of 72? Chesed. So what is Eiruv? Eiruv is 72 ayin beis chesed. In the middle you have reish yud vav is Gvura. Eiruv is mixing. Chesed and Gvura become one word. What does this mean? What's the connection between an Eiruv and Chesed and Gvura? Comes the Tzemach Tzedek, and in the Sefer Oira Torah Shir Hashirim Amud Taf Mem, he discusses a whole mimer on Netilas Yadayim and Eiruvin, and I quoted here a few lines. Now, the terminology is abstract. It's classic Kabbalistic and Chabad Hasidic terminology, which is abstract. But Be'ezer Hashem, I think, will be able to bring it down and apply it and understand it, at least some of it. Zog the Tzemach Tzedek. V'gam hinei mitzvahs Eiruvin al derech zeh nitka. This is the inner meaning of Eiruvin. It's known. I'm going to read it and then explain. The shlitas hachitzonim iburushus harabim dafka. The dominance of the chitzonim, the dominance of the chitzonim, of the external forces, is always in Rishus Harabim, in the public domain. It has no place in Rishus HaYachid which has walls. The Halachim Masechta Shabbos is Rishus Harabim only reaches 10 tfachim. Above 10 cubits is not Rishus Harabim anymore. It's called Makom Ptur. Rishus HaYachid Oil Ad L'Rakia till the heavens is called Rishus HaYachid. And in Halachim that has major ramifications. Because if I throw something from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus Harabim higher than 10 Tfachim, it's a whole different category in Halach. It's not a Rishus Harabim. A Rishus HaYachid goes all the way to the heavens. What does this mean? So he says, Hainu Bria Chatichen Amavriach Min HaKotze LaKotze. Because the Rishus HaYachid is the Bria Chatichai. It's the domain of oneness. It goes from the highest extreme to the lowest extreme. Rishus HaRab stops at some point. When you have two Rishus HaYachid near each other, you're now in a quandary. On one hand, they're both private. On the other hand, each one is exclusive from the other. You won't have a lot of pirut, but you'll have a little pirut. You'll have a little separation here. I have my house with my walls. You have your house. Maybe right near each other, but there's still a little fragmentation. It's not one rishus. So the Chachamim said, take bread and mix the courtyards, mix the houses together. It should become one house. And this unity will not allow the alien force to get any nurture from this separation. When you have two private domains, which are both Rishus HaYachid, but they're not one, so it's like Chesed and Gvura, which are not integrated. And then the chitzonim can get nurture from it. There's room for something negative to emerge. What the Eiruv does is, it brings together two Rishus HaYachids, which is Chesed and Gvura, through the Eiruv, which is Kav HaMtzai, which we call Tiferes, the middle line, which integrates Chesed and Gvura. What is the Tzemach Tzedek explaining here? He's taking the domains of Shabbos and Halacha, and he's explaining them from a spiritual, psychological, and emotional point of view, which is what Kabbalah and Chassidus always does. Rishus HaRab and Rishus HaYachid are not just two domains. You have Fifth Avenue, or you have a street which is 16 amas wide, and according to some opinions, 600,000 people walking. And Rishus HaYachid is a private domain which has 3 walls. It's private. Obviously, that's the basic halachic definition without getting into the nuanced complexities here. But they each represent something. Rishus HaRabim represents a domain where there's a rabbin. There's no achdus, there's no oneness. You are you, I am I, and we're completely fragmented. Just like it's literally Rishus HaRabim. I'm always fascinated. I know many of you have escaped to Muncie for the quiet and the privacy. I go to Manhattan, and I'm just standing on the street and watching. And you have hundreds of thousands of people walking back and forth every moment. And the fascinating thing is, everybody's thinking about something else. But more than that, everyone is confident and certain that what they're thinking about, that is the most important issue going on in the world right now. One person just got divorced. One person is about to get married. One person just made $42 million because he brokered a deal on 42nd Street, and the other one just lost a similar amount of money because he lost the deal. One just got into a major fight with his wife. One just made up with his wife. One person is healthy and celebrating, and one person feels terrible. One is happy and one is depressed. One is dealing with this headache and one with this headache, this appointment, that appointment. Most of them are, of course, on their iPhones or texting, bumping into everybody. And although we're bumping into each other, we're not unified. And I'm the only Meshuggah who's thinking about everybody else. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I need to give a drasha. Not because I'm so selfless. I'm analyzing the matzav. But that's what Rishus HaRabim means. You can have in the same house a Rishus HaRabim. It means everyone is going their own way. There's no language, there's no trust, there's no cohesiveness. But it stops. Once you hit higher than 10 tfachim, that's it. Because Rishus HaRabim is a product of a world where oneness is concealed. The Gemara says in Sukkah Daf, hey, me'olam lo'yor the Shechina, lamata me'asara. The Shechina is above 10. That's why how do you know that a sukkah has to be minimum 10 tfachim high? How do you know? So the Gemara says in Sukkah Daf, I mean, there's a few limudim, but the first one is, the Shechina never came down below Asara, Rabbi Yossi says. The Shechina never came down below Asara. So what's the connection to Sukkah? What's the connection to Sukkah? So the Sfas Emes writes, very powerful word. There's different interpretations. Rashi probably means something, has a different shot. Sfasema says as follows, the Gemara says in Sukkah Daf Tesam and Aleph, Chag Lashem Kishem Shechol Shem Shemayim Ala Chagigah Kach Chol Shem Shemayim Ala Sukkah. The Sukkah has Chlois Shem Shemayim. That's why you're not allowed to benefit from the Schach throughout Sukkahs, because the Shem Shemayim Ala Sukkah. There's the name of God on the Sukkah, the Kedusha of the Sukkah. Says as Fasemes, that's what the Gemara means. If the Sukkah is going to be lower than 10, the Shechina won't be able to come down. So that's why you have to have the Schach above 10, and therefore the Shechina can come down. So Rishus HaRabim stops by 10. What about Rishus HaYachid? Rishus HaYachid is the domain where we sense Achdus. Yechidoi Shel Olam, the oneness of the world. So it's Oila Adler Rakiyah. From heaven all the way down. Because once you sense the oneness is everywhere. Einoid Mulvada. From the highest place to the lower place, it's all Rishus HaYachid. On Shabbos, you don't take out from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. Because what's the whole idea of Shabbos? What's the whole idea of Shabbos? That the world is a Rishus HaYachid. Which explains, Al Pi Chasidus, the great question of Tosfos. Which question? Why does Masechta Shabbos start off with Yitzias HaShabbos? In the 7th Perek of Shabbos, which Malach is carrying? Which number in the 39? 39! So why does Masechta Shabbos start off with number 39? So what does Tosfos answer? Haitzah Malach Agruyahi. Carrying is not a real Malach, he's not doing anything. So therefore we have to start with that. But there's also a deeper interpretation. Haitzah represents Shabbos. All the Malachis are part of Haitzah. There's a Midrash Rabbi. A min asked Rabbi Akiva, does God do all the mitzvahs? Rabbi Akiva said, yeah. So he said, how does it rain on Shabbos? He plants. So Rabbi Akiva says, how does he blow winds on Shabbos, carry leaves? Rabbi Akiva says, in your house you're allowed to carry. Kol ha'olam rishusayhi. So the Mefarshim say, excuse me, in your house you're allowed to plant? In your garden you're allowed. Rishus HaYachid explains that you're allowed to carry, not that you're allowed to cook, and not that you're allowed to bake, and not that you're allowed to make fires, and not that you're allowed to rain, and not that you're allowed to plow, and not that you're allowed to grow. How does it answer, Mekiva? You covered one malacha. Is the pshat? The Baal HaTanya says this in Likkutei Torah Tazriya, that Haitzah is the essence of all the malachas. It's taking out the world from Rishus HaYachid into Rishus HaRabim. Denying the Achdus Habriya, which is what Shabbos represents. 6 days you work, you create, everyone in their own world. Sheishes Yomim Tavet, you do your thing, I do my thing. Shabbos is oneness. We don't create, we acknowledge that we're one. Any malach is taken out from Rishus HaYachid conceptually. That's why it's the beginning of Masechta Shabbos. That's Rishus HaYachid. So it's two paradigms. But now you have two Rishus HaYachids. This is Talmidei Rebbe Akiva. You have two Eden. They're both Rishus HaYachid. But I got my house, and you got your house. This, he says, it's not Rishus HaRabim. It's Achdus. But everyone has their own Rishus HaYachid. I'm Chesed. You're Gvura. You're Tiferes. You're Netzach. You're tall. He's short. You have this gift. I have that gift. I have this geschmack, you have this geschmack. I have this natiya, you have this natiya. I have this characteristic, you have this characteristic. I have the name in the back of the sweater. Says it's a Tzedek. There could be ktsas pirut, fragmentation. Because there's diversity, there's distinctiveness. A husband and a wife, they're not the same. Parents and children, siblings, they were once the same, but they're not the same anymore. Now, take it one step deeper. The Gemara says, Rashi brings, Korach shepike chaya marol ishtuzu. Korach was brilliant. Why did he do such a stupid thing? I want to ask a klotz kasha. How did Chazal know he was brilliant? Maybe he was an idiot. It says somewhere in Torah, Korach pike chaya. How did they know he was brilliant? Maybe he was a shaita. The pshat, of course, is, from the story you see that he was a wise man. What's the wisdom in his vart? So Torah Chassidus explains that Korach's taina was very profound. He said, one second, I ask you a question. We're diversified, right? Yeah. But I want to ask you a question. You look at a family, there's many siblings. They may be scattered, they may not even be on speaking terms with each other. Let me ask you, they were once one in the womb of their mother? Avada. They all come from their mother's body, their father's body. Over there was oneness. Later, it came out separate. So I have a question. Where was the whole world before? It was not in the womb of Hashem. It was all in Hashem. On some abstract, transcendent level, however you want to define it. He is the source of it all. He's the mama, he's the tata. Let's take the world back to the source. Korach shepikechaya. What's pikach? The Gemara says, Ezo chacham, haraya, is hanoiled. What Haraya is hanoiled? So we say the one who sees the future. Raya is hanoiled literally means he sees that which is born now. Korach says, let's look. Haraya is hanoiled, look at the world as it's being born, see the source. And in the source, it's one. Madua tisnasu. There's no Moshe, there's no Aaron, there's no Kohen Gadol, there's no Leviim, there's no Yisraelim. Hashem has parts. Chas v'shalom. Achdus. Where's Moshe? Where's Aaron? Where am I? Where's you? Where are you? All one. Hashem echad. Gevaldik. Korach shepikechaya. Very deep chachma. But Korach is wrong. You know why? He's right. In the source, he's right. In the source, he's right. But the Rebbeinu Shalom created a world and he wanted that from Rishus HaYochid there should be Rishus HaRabim. And that we should be Megala, Rishus HaYochid in Rishus HaRabim, to make from Rabbim one. I can't deny today that there's differences and say, in God we're one and therefore we're one. It's not true to the story of creation. When the Avodah finishes, when Mashiach comes, what does it say in Yirmiyah? V'lo yalamdu oidish Yisraeyu. Why? Ki kulam yedu oisi lemiktanan vad g'dolam. Nobody will have teachers anymore. Why do you have to teach? Why do you have to learn from somebody? Ki kulam yedu oisi. Was the bezveinike lekus v'atzveiter? You're less rooted in God than somebody else? But you can't create a reality of Mashiach in a time when there is diversity and deny the fabric of creation, and as a result of that, not do the avodah that brings to this achdus. So you have Rishus HaRabim, you have Rishus HaYochid, and you have different Rishus HaYochids. And this can create fragmentation and separation, because you have your avodah, I have my avodah. And for me to be able to create space for you and space for me is very difficult. Comes Shlomo HaMelech. Who's Shlomo HaMelech? You remember what they told Rechavim about him? What Malchus is? You want to be like your father? Im ata tiyeh hayoim evet. And he institutes Eiruv Chatzeirot. What's Eiruv Chatzeirot? He says we're going to collect bread and we're going to put it in one home. And therefore we're going to identify, as the Shulchan Aruch Harav said, everyone's machshava is in that home. We're all extensions of that home. What does this represent spiritually? It's the notion of taking all the Rishus HaYochids and identifying that ultimately they're all one. They're different, but they're one. And they become one through their differences. Just like a symphony, and just like a body, and just like an orchestra. We become one because we're different. I contribute my note, you contribute yours. I give my limb, you give yours. You give your instrument, I give mine, and a symphony is created. A jigsaw puzzle is created. An organism, a life is created, as we explained. But for that, you have to get the bread from each. You have to place it in one home. And that home captures the essence. And each of them are extensions. I still go back to my house. I have my bed and you have your bed. I have my living room, I have my library, I have my shtick. And you have your shtick. You have your idiosyncrasies, I have my idiosyncrasies. Hopefully you worked it out with your better half. But it's still one bias. That's Eiruv Chatzeros. Who instituted it? Shlomo HaMelech. How did he institute it? By identifying the bread, the oneness, the achdus. Eved lo mazeh, that's the function of the Rebbe, of the Melech, of the real Manig Yisrael. So what does the Baskel say? The Baskel says, B'ni, im chacham libecha yismach libi gamani. What's the connection? So let's see the last source. Chidushei Harim, Parshas Korach. Machloikes shel Korach nikra chatzeirot. We go back to the beginning of the Shir. Why does Rashi define Korach as chatzeirot? What does chatzeirot mean? Courtyards, that's Korach. Courtyards without an eruv. That's Korach. Courtyards without an eruv. Zok the Chidushei. The Amru Chazal b'shah shetikin shloim amalech eruv chatzeirot yotze baskov amru chachambni v'kosha ma chachma yesh be'eruv chatzeirot. Was is the chachma v'nira? The chacham ein of b'roishay v'roya tachlis kol davar. Pasuk says the chacham has his eyes on his head. Everyone has their eyes on their head, hopefully. But what it means is he sees the purpose. He has vision. He sees the ultimate goal. He sees the bigger picture. Chacham ein of b'roishay v'roya tachlis kol davar. Ukesha adam davuk b'tzadik emes. So when a person is connected to a tzaddik emes, and of course the emphasis is on emes, so he becomes part, he has an aliyah to the state of the tzaddik. V'zeh tikin shloim ha'melech olav ha'sholem shel kazayis sheyesh b'dei echad yicholim litztarif anoshim harbe. What did Shlomo HaMelech institute? There's a kazayis of bread, one house. It's only in one house, and yet everybody is considered part of it, and everyone is combined through it, and everyone could carry in the whole courtyard and into each other's house. They're all one through the bread in this home. Vayikach Korach says the Targum on the opening of the Parsha. Korach split. Ve'ispalet from the word pilug. He split himself away. He created a split. Shenechlak mishar hashvatim v'lo yehoide b'zeh she'adam yochel l'davik b'tzadik. Korach did not believe a person could connect to a tzaddik. Ula'agiya yidei ze l'madrigoseh ela l'daite kol echad hu b'fnei atzmo. Every Jew ultimately remains alone. I am I, and you are you. And the twins shall not meet. Ultimately, everyone lives a solitary life. And he turns to Moshe and he says, Madua tisnasu al kahal Hashem. What does he not acknowledge? The gift of Nimtze shaloi hoide be'eruv. V'nishar chatzeirot b'li eruv. Pirush k'moi botei ha'chatzerim she'en lam chayma l'fichach nikra makam machlikosei chatzeirot. What he doesn't acknowledge is the idea of eruv chatzeirot. And the broader explanation to expand this insight of the Chidushei Harim is what Korach doesn't acknowledge is the true role of Moshe of a Rebbe, who represents that piece of bread in one home, but ultimately combines everybody into one. Because Moshe Yisrael identifies to each of us that there's really a nekudas ha'achdus, that we're all come from and we all play out through our individuality. But I could look at the diversity and I see oneness in the diversity, through the diversity. That's the gift of eruv chatzeirot. Who does this? Where is the bread? So I ask you, in the Midbar, who did the bread come in whose chus? The man was Moshe's gift. Moshe is called always in Zohar, Raya Mehemneh. The shepherd, the one who gives the bread, the lechem and hashamayim, the man, is b'schus Moshe. He represents the home that holds that kazayis, that bread that everyone is connected to, everyone is part of. How can he do that? Because he embodies the name in the front of the shirt, beyond the ego. Avdus haninoy samachem. And then there's dveikus in the tzaddik, and automatically there's dveikus with everybody else. Because what is the tzaddik? The klal, the nekudas ha'achdus, the nekudas of alakus, the nekudah of divine unity in everybody. Korach screams achdus, but really everybody remains alone. To go back to the source in the womb, we can't do that. I can't make believe the world wasn't created. You have yourself. What do you do with yourself? Kill yourself? How are we going to make believe the world wasn't created? We were created. There's Metzius. Now you have to find Hashem in Metzius, in diversity, in reality. So Korach screams, I don't want categories, I want everybody one. In reality, it creates the biggest machloikas. Because we're different. And when we scream we're not different, when we find out we're different, we fight each other, sometimes we kill each other. To be able to identify that we're different. But in Moshe Rabbeinu we're one, that's eruv chatzeirot. Which of the attributes represents this nekuda? This is what Chachma is. Ha-Chacham einav b'roishai. To be able to see the bigger picture, to be able to see the purpose. Chachma says the Tanya is koyach ma. What does Moshe say on himself? V'nachnu ma ki salinu aleinu. Ma, what am I? Chachma is the ma, the ability to wonder, to ask. It's going beyond the ego. It's the curiosity. Chachma is always the flash of wisdom, the intuition that comes into you. Above your mind, when you open yourself up to something higher, Chachma is the ability for bittul, Chachma is the ability to transcend your individual trap and see your own bigger picture. When Shlomo instituted Eiruvin, the Baskel says, Im Chacham b'ni, to be able to be megala, the achdus, even in Rishus HaYachid, Yismach libi gamoni, this creates the greatest simcha. What creates joy in life? We see simcha peiritz gather. When people are happy, they hug each other. They're close to each other. Simcha removes boundaries. Sometimes there's people, it's a pasnish for you to go over to them and shul and speak to them. But at your daughter's chasana, even before you say Elachayim, you hug, you kiss, you embrace. Why? Simcha opens up people to deeper places. When you open up to deeper places, you see that we're not so disconnected. We're really one. That's what Eruv accomplished. And Bekitzin Nimrit Natilas Yadayim says that Tzemach Tzedek is a similar nekuda. And very, very bekitzer, what's water? Water is very unique. Water doesn't have a color. What's the color of water? Water doesn't have a color. It adopts every color. You put water in a green bowl and it looks green. A blue bowl, it looks blue. So the color of water represents, you'll ask, your child asks you, what is, there's a book, it's a sad book, it's called The Color of Water. African-American boy, his mama was a Yiddish maidel. She was molested by her uncle, I think in the 1930s, the 1940s. And she left her home and Jewish faith and she married a black man. And she had, I believe, 12 children, all Yiddish kinderlach. But what we would call black Americans. Her husband died very young. I think she married a priest, a black priest. Very courageous woman. And they lived in poverty there were gangs there. She got all of her kids through college. And one of them is a writer for the New York Times, and he wrote a book about his mother's history called The Color of Water. And in the book he describes, he was having a conversation with his mother as a little kid. She was the only white woman in the neighborhood. And he asked her, he said, is God black or white? Does he look like Tati, Daddy, or does he look like Mom? So she said, God doesn't have a color. So he said, how could God not have a color? She said, he's like the color of water. She was mechavan. The Pardes in Kabbalah, Mayim is a dugma for the Oirein Soiv, the energy of Hashem, which is, it's not defined. It takes on colors. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes have colors. Chesed is blue, Gvura is red, Tiferes is yoroik, green or yellow. Everyone has a color in Kabbalah. But Shema Avaya, Shema Etzem, it's colorless, it's the color of water. The hands represent the midos. It says in Tikkunei Zohar in the introduction, Chesed, Droya Yemina, Gvura, Droya Smala. The right arm is Chesed, the left arm is Gvura. Those are the two primary emotions, attraction, rejection, love, discipline, closeness, space. When you're eating, Lechem is Milashon Milchama, because eating is always a war. Because food is a complicated thing. On one hand, there's divine sparks in the food. On the other hand, the food can also schlep you down. Depends the manner in which you're eating. If the food belongs to you, or you belong to the food. If you will elevate the food, or the food will control you. And we all know there's different ways of eating. You can go check it out in the tent nearby. You see, some people, they're slaves of the food, and some people, they see the food from a higher point of view, and on the contrary, they appreciate the nitzitz in the food. The potential of the food. They have a relationship with the food. So before you're going to go eat, Netilas Yadayim means to pick up your hands. You take water. Water is the undefined unity. And you lift up your hands. You pour water on your hands, meaning you connect. the undefined unity of Hashem with the defined individuality of your life, just like Eiruv Chatzaros. Hashem is one, water, it's undefined. There's no separate Rishus HaYachid. It's all one. Hashem is not Chesed, Hashem is not Gvura. But it trickles down into our world, which is based on diversity and individuality. Eiruv Chatzaros was Megala, the Achdus, collectively. Netilas Yadayim is before you eat. You connect your individuality to the higher level of water, Netilas Yadayim. When Shloimeh the Melech, the Eved, instituted these two things, the Baskel came out and said, one statement, and that is, B'ni, my son, im chacham libecha, when your heart demonstrates such chachma, yismach libi gam ani. Ultimately, you achieve that which Kivayachal Hashem couldn't achieve. Meaning, He created us to achieve, and that is to connect the world of oneness with the world of diversity. Have a wonderful week. Pleasure to have you. You see, Yishmer got to you. Yishmer got to you. Of course, they got to play the same sport. And in marriage, if the husband and wife have the same goal, they want to create a whole group, they want to create a family, then it can be achdus. The more we're rooted in a vision that transcends both of us, but unites both of us, that's where it can be achdus. Indeed, if the body, if the stomach decides its function is not to take in food, and the eyes decide its function is not to see, I'm not interested in that. I have a different agenda. You're right. The body has to have a vision, a blueprint. That's what Torah is. That's what Moshe is.
It's a language of expectation.